welcome to our monthly Ought to Know webinar series. I'm Elle and I'm the COO here at Autism Awareness Australia, and I'm very excited today to be hosting our Health and Wellbeing webinar, which is part of our Adult Stream series for Ought to Know. Today's webinar is proudly brought to you by our great friends at Chill for Autism. Chill is an evidence-based social skills coaching program for young adults on the spectrum. It helps support them to grow their confidence, to become more socially independent, and to find their tribe. And we're very lucky that we've had Chill as a long-time supporter of AAA, and thank you for all the great work they do. Today, I'm going to be joined by the incredible Barb Cook. And Barb has too many qualifications for me to be able to rattle off in half an hour. But I'd like to tell you some of the highlights. She's a neurodivergent advocate, a registered developmental educator, an integrative nutritionist, and most recently, she is an Australian athletics coach. So welcome to Barb, and we can't wait to hear about all the incredible insights she's got to share. Today, we've got the Q&A open as well, so please pop your questions into the Q&A and the team will do their best to answer those, and we'll answer as many as we can online. So, Barb, I don't know where to begin because I have so many questions for you today, and I was told I'm not going to get through all of them, but
we'll do our best.
Let's do our best. So, I guess for people who are not as familiar with you and your work, if we take a step back for a minute, you received your autism diagnosis later in life, sort of in your late 30s. What was it like dealing with healthcare before you understood yourself and the diagnosis? What were some of those challenges, and what sort of changed once you understood and received your autism diagnosis?
That's a really good question. But I think back, you're right, I was late 30s. It was 6 weeks before my 40th birthday is when I got my diagnosis. And at that point, I literally felt like I was having a major breakdown, and I felt like the whole system did not understand who I was. I was really concerned that, okay, I just don't know how to deal with life anymore. I was in a very dark place at that particular time because I just didn't understand why I didn't fit in with society, and why, doctors and, health professionals didn't understand what was going on. And fortunately for me, it was in a very small town, a local GP that identified, because I'd had a misdiagnosis of in the past of bipolar disorder and social anxiety. And for me, that didn't feel like it fit. I didn't, I couldn't understand like what was going on with, that diagnosis, because I didn't seem to meet everything that was going on in there. And I'm still like, so I met this GP in a small town at a health and wellbeing expo, the little one that we did for their small town, which was fantastic, and looking at, different ways of health and mental health. And me and my, bold self at that particular time, I identified, I thought, oh, I can relate to her so well. I ran up to her and said, hey, I've got bipolar disorder. This is what's going on with me. Right? And she went, no, you don't. Come and see me in my practice. And that started me on that sort of journey of helping me understand about getting my diagnosis for autism and ADHD and dyslexia, which I didn't even know I had reading problems and issues at that time as well. But it was been back then it was a real struggle, especially as an autistic woman. Most health professionals don't even know what that was back then. And so that was the reasoning for me to really look into that area about supporting other autistic women around health and well-being and getting support, because they just didn't know enough, because we had that in the past of like autism is just young boys and that's it. We don't actually grow into adults as well, as you would understand from research in the past. But fortunately, it is starting to change. It comes from self-advocacy as ourselves as autistic people, and people with advocating for their kids and things like that, to get that knowledge through to health professionals. Sometimes I even still feel now really awkward even talking about things like my autism and ADHD and dyslexia diagnosis when I go and see them, because I can mask and present very, very well. And very, when I go in there, I've researched everything to death, and I'm go, this is what's going on. And they sort of like ask me, and I had to, this just reminded me of something when I broke my wrist many years ago. And before my before my diagnosis, 2 years before it, I went in there and told them all about what had happened to my wrist. And I told them there was the Terry Thomas sign that I had in my wrist because of the way I felt. And they looked at me, all these doctors going, so what do you do as a job? Oh, I'm a graphic designer. And it's like, and so there was signs in the past that I was somewhat bit different in understanding and researching things, everything into great detail.
That is, yeah, I can completely see how that could happen, Barb. Um, I guess so. That's a really, you did mention there you'd been to hospital once before, and recently you went to hospital, unfortunately, and you had a small injury. Um,
Yes.
and we got to be honest, hospitals, doctor's appointments, medical appointments in general, they're not really geared for autistic adults. There's a lot of things that can be a challenge. So, what typically does go wrong when an autistic adult goes to the hospital or has a doctor's appointment? What are some of those challenges?
Yeah, well, just even reflecting, as you said, on the recent visit I had to the hospital, and this wasn't public hospital of all things as well. Um, when I went there, it's the environment probably was a little bit better than the hospital I went to because it had carpet and TV and it was slightly dimmer in lighting. So I was actually quite fortunate in the waiting room there. However, when they come to get me, they stuck me in a little corridor. And at some point later on, it was 4 hours later because I'd ripped a hole in my calf muscle from training, throwing the javelin of all things. And so they stuck me in the corridor and then forgot about me. The doctor eventually come back and said, "Oh, this is what's going on. You need some crutches. I'll go and get someone to get you some crutches." And I sat there and I sat there in this corridor and there's no people walking past and it's really bright. And it was actually really anxiety provoking going, have I misheard what they've said? I was questioning myself, not questioning what they're doing. And this is very typical of us autistic people. We tend to think we're the problem when we're not. It's because, how, you know, unfortunately how hospitals are, there's just, not enough staff, not enough beds and things like that. But we experience it probably even more overwhelming than typical people because we tend to think, oh, we're the problem here. I don't want to bother that person because they've got so much other things going on. And so it made my anxiety so huge just about asking, well, where's my crutches so I can go home? And fortunately, a security guy walked past and I said, I think they've forgotten about me. Can you find out? And that's when they sort of found out there was a side door next to me. Someone from the reception opened, and then it made me feel like I was like back at school. This is my personal experience. How I felt. I felt like I've done something wrong because they looked at me. I'm sitting in a chair. They look down at you. So there's that mismatch there. So it makes you feel really uncomfortable, like when you're at school going, "Oh, I've done something wrong," but I haven't done anything wrong. I just asked a question and need some support. So that past trauma of being, autistic as well comes through when you go into these environments when they're not understanding who you are and your neurological differences and the support. And hospitals, they are very overwhelming for autistic people. We need to be really prepared as best as possible. Unfortunately, this was in a sort of an emergency situation that I just got drove straight to. Couldn't provide any sheets or information. But if we had information, say, on our phone, which is something I'm going to do, and go, hey, this is what's going on. Can you please check on me and things like that? So, yeah, and even with doctors as well. Fortunately, I have a very good doctor who actually understands autism, which has been a godsend as well. So he's put me through checking out everything that I ask about rather than me feeling like a hypochondriac because us autistic people also feel things differently to the typical population. We sort of know, oh, okay, there's something not right. What's going on? We research it, we get a bit of an idea, go in with information, and then get dismissed. And I've had this with clients as well that I've worked with because I predominantly worked with women in middle age, autistic women. And you go into the doctors and you get dismissed all the time, going, oh, you're a bit of a, you made to feel like a hypochondriac, but we know, there's something not right. Can you help us find out what's going on? Um, you
Yeah.
know, it's hard.
And that's something we hear a lot, actually. There's it being dismissed by a medical professional and not being heard. That's something that we hear a lot. So, what are some of the things people can do, I guess, to be more proactive? Like you were saying before, maybe having some information ready to go on your phone. Often we don't know when these emergency things are going to happen. But what are some of the things you can do to be more proactive about your healthcare and even more so about making sure your needs are going to be met and that you're going to be successful when you are visiting doctors and that overwhelm can be reduced? What are some things people can do? And what are some things parents can do that will help?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I've done for many years is every time I go to the doctors and every test that I have, I ask, please print this out for me. I have a folder where I put it in and it follows an order of dates of when everything happens for me. So I have all this information if I get questioned about something. It also helps me to track my own health as well. So you want to be proactive in helping yourself as well, because quite often when you go to the doctors, you're there for like 10 minutes at the door. They not want to read through all your history. So if you can also help monitor yourself by getting printouts of everything that you're doing. One thing I think is challenging as well is if you go and get scans. I'm finding this recently is with certain companies, you go, say, get an X-ray and it gets sent to your doctor. You get sent the pictures, but they don't send you the report. We won't release that until you go and see your doctor. It's like it causes more anxiety for us. What you can do, you can ask for this earlier. You just ring them up and say, I want that sent to me, that report. So don't be afraid to ask for these things. You are allowed these to be sent to you before you go and see your doctor. Other things you can do is prepare, like I said, with having a checklist, so you can have that printed out. So go through all the different questions that you want to ask when you go and see your doctor. Also, make sure to book for an extended appointment instead of just the typical 10-15 minute appointment. Ask for a long appointment, a 30-minute one. Yes, you probably get billed more for doing that, but it can reduce the anxiety of knowing I don't have to rush through all of this, all these questions, because the anxiety builds even when you've got a list going, oh, I've got to get through all these things. If you've got more time to do that, that can help you get across what you want to say. Also, have someone, a friend or a support person or a partner to come with you as well and to discuss that appointments beforehand. What do you want to talk about? What do I need to know? If there's any big words or things like that, ask them to reframe it. Go, I don't understand this. I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you give that to me in plain language? Sometimes the doctor, as you know, might not have enough time. Go and ask the admin. I know because in the past I've worked actually in the admin part in medical areas, and usually they've got a lot of knowledge. So go and ask them afterwards, what does this mean? If you've got to go off and do an X-ray, don't be afraid to ask them about, okay, what does this entail? Where am I going? Can I have a look at these places beforehand? You can ring up different centres and say, hey, I've got to come and have an X-ray. Is it possible you can send me some information about what I need to do? Can I come have a look beforehand? This can be really helpful for parents, especially with younger children, to take them in, go and see what that environment's like. Because sometimes some of these are really big. There can be lots and lots of people. Ask them what times of day are actually less busy as well. So if you've got an appointment, I found this, I had an appointment at 9 o'clock to go and get an X-ray done. The whole room was full and there was a lineup out to the door to wait to the admin to get in. And that was more stressful as well. So find out what times a day more likely to be less busy in there. So that can be less overwhelming for you as well. You can also ask them if you find that waiting room area is really busy and overwhelming, say to them, I'm going to go and wait outside. Can you get someone to come and get me when it's my appointment? So you don't have to sit there and suffer in these environments. Go to another space and ask them if someone can come and do that for you. Or have a support person sit in there and wait for you and come and get you when your name's called. So that's just some of the things that can help reduce that overwhelm.
And that is so many good tips there, Barb. There's some really, really good advice in that, and all of it really practical and really
Yeah,
easy things to be able to implement. But it sounds like, advocating for what you need is really important.
it is.
Yeah, it is. You spoke a little bit before about supporting autistic women and neurodivergent women and their health. Now, we know women face different challenges when it comes to health and needs and hormones and menopause and all of these wonderful things that happen to us women. So walk us through, how does that impact autistic women a little differently, maybe to neurotypical women? And what are some of the things that they can do to prepare for some of those different health challenges?
Yeah, there's still, menopause in autistic women is very, very under-researched. I know this because I'm involved in research in the US. We're looking at menopause in autism. Currently, I think there's like about 5 or 6 published papers now, and predominantly a lot of the research work has been done by Rachel Mosley, looking at that, gathering experiences as well. Um, but there is still very little understanding out there in the broader community, just let alone just in the neurotypical population about menopause, then looking at the autistic differences as well. So there's the biggest thing is what we looked at with research. Um, the differences were in sleep. There was also sexual functioning changes that came in with menopause, then sensory differences as well. Because as we go into perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause, these all fluctuate and change in relation to our hormones, as you would know. But when you've got sensory sensitivities, this can really impact big time. So, an example for me, which I didn't understand what was going on, I thought I had bugs in my ears. I had this really terrible itching in my ears, and it was overwhelming because I have, with sensory sensitivities. And I'm like, what's going on? I need to go to the doctors and find out what's going on. But it's part of menopause. They don't tell you about these things. There's some really weird and random things that can happen during this stage. So don't be afraid to ask if there's something like, that, for example, is that to do with menopause that's triggering these things? As we get older, skin dries, so we're going to be, if you've got sensory to touch or to, clothing and things like that, that may become more irritating. So, for example, if you used to like wearing really tight clothing, I'm the person like that loves wearing tight clothing. That can change as you head into perimenopause and menopause because you can't stand that feel on your skin. So that could be changes. So there's going to be subtle differences that can even let you know if you're in perimenopause. And if you're like me, when I went in going to the doctor, I think I'm in perimenopause. They do blood tests. Blood tests are not reliable. I'm telling you if you are or not. For years, they said, no, you're not. So you may want to be thinking about what's changing sensory wise for you. There's also cognitive changes. So if you've got executive functioning differences, if you're like me with my ADHD part, where I really, really struggle with executive functioning, that can get a whole lot worse. When we're in midlife, we could be potentially having burnout as well that's layered on top of this. And this is something I talk about as well as the layering effect. So you could have perimenopause, it could be executive functioning going on, there could be burnout going on, there could be all different demands going on. There can also be health challenges that are starting to come in as well as we age as well. So all of these things we really need to be mindful of as we get into this particular stage of life as well. So this again is where you want to be being proactive about with your health and well-being, especially from, the nutritional aspect, from the exercise, doing as much as possible to help you prepare for these stages in life. Um, Particularly with us neurodivergent folk, we tend to go, I'm feeling fine. I'm not going to do anything now. It's not until the last minute you go, oh no, I'm sick. I've got to do something about it. And often that's a bit too late.
Yeah, and again, that's something we really do hear a lot. And you mentioned burnout as well before. A lot of autistic adults tell us that by the time they get to that stage, they're so feeling so overwhelmed and so exhausted that it is so hard for them to actually put some strategies in place to try and help. So being proactive, really helpful. The work you do at Spectrum Women, I highly, highly recommend anybody who's interested in this space, definitely check it out. We'll make sure we include all of Barb's websites when we send this recording out, but there's some excellent resources on there and really good advice, Barb. So, among all the many things that you are doing, you recently have decided to become an athletics coach. Tell us how come? What did you decide? What made you decide you want to do that, Barb? In all the other things that you've already got going on, what made you go, I'd like to do some athletics training?
Well, what prompted that was last year, I think it was about November last year, I had an injury in my hip. And I felt like I kept tearing muscles. I felt very weak. I felt like it really didn't feel very healthy at all. So I went to an exercise physio that's local to me, who's turned out to be an absolute godsend. He's an amazing guy. And through building my fitness back up, and my muscles were so bad that, like, if I sat on the ground, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't get off the ground. So he's built me back up so I could do all those things. And through that process of, it also works through some of the mental health things that are going on in the background. It's quite interesting. You don't think about the psychology behind going to working out. You start thinking, okay, I'm feeling better. I like how I'm feeling. It brings up trauma about other things, which I've found through this process. And then it reminded me of when I was younger. So when I was younger, I used to be an athlete. So I used to be a javelin, discus, shot put, and race walker, but I'm not going back to race walking. I didn't like doing that. I felt very self-conscious doing race walking. But javelin was my thing, and I did very, very well for about 11 years when I was younger. And I was aspiring to be in the Commonwealth Games, but life took me on a different tangent, and that didn't have it happen. That's another story for another time. And I was thinking back to how much I admired my coach that was helping me through this and the support I got from him because my dad paid for a professional coach for me to do javelin. And so I'm talking to my physio, and he said to me, you'd make a really good coach. Well, if you tell me to do, just I said this only recently to
That's
him from
all the
mum.
encouragement you needed,
That's
wasn't
all I needed. And it was that night, for obviously Facebook, my phone had been listening into this conversation because that night it came up on Facebook, local athletics club tomorrow's got their AGM. So I said to my partner, guess what? I'm dragging you along. We're going down to the athletics club, the AGM. And I said to him, I want to become an athletics coach. And it just steamrolled big time in since May. So me and Paul have gone and done all the training with Athletics Australia. We did online courses. We did uh, trying to think for her name, a middle distance runner that was one of the main coaches, and she's been also in the Olympics and things like that as well. She was doing all the coaching course with us as well, and we tune into her each week, and we did all these assessments, and so we became youth development athletics coaches, so we can coach all the little athletics. At our club, and it's been absolutely fantastic. The energy from the young ones, and we have a lot of neurodivergent kids in athletics. I was really surprised. I never remembered this as a kid. But now going into athletics, I'm like, oh my goodness, there is so many of us. And it's great because what you're doing when you're in athletics is you're competing against yourself, your PB. What can I do best? Little A's are really good how they've got their perspective about encouraging, the kids to go and have fun, and get in there and being, doing things for yourself, helping build their confidence and things like that. And we've also been looking into the areas of athletics and disability as well. So we've been doing a lot of courses and getting involved in that as well because we have quite a few in our club, and just trying to help get the support in there as well. And these kids are just absolutely amazing to work with, and they're so dedicated, and they so like and it's brought back my own feelings of when I was a kid, as
Oh,
well from
that's
this.
so
So it
lovely.
promotes me to keep going as well. And so only recently, before I wrecked my leg at the weekend doing travel and training, went to Canberra for the Masters. So we both signed up as Masters athletes. I went to Canberra for the Masters Games, and I ended up getting a silver and a bronze medal at the games. So I got silver in discus and bronze in shot put and fourth in javelin. So yeah, in about 5 or 6 months.
You are a superwoman, Barb. You really are. But look, little athletics especially, is a really great exercise for our kids. And I'm guessing that part of that reason is because it's not a group team sport.
Yeah.
There's the ability for you to be able to participate, but at your own pace and, like you said, against your own personal best. But exercise often isn't very fun, like for a lot of people. What are some of the things that parents can do and autistic adults can do that might make exercise more enjoyable, and also more accessible? Because the sensory part can be really tricky for people. Communication part can also be a bit difficult. So, what are some of the things people can do that it is more fun and you really do want to take part, and it can be a consistent part of your routine every day or every week?
Yeah. Fun is really important with doing the exercise. So, as they say with self-care, it's not self-care if you're forcing yourself to go and do a 5K run that you absolutely hate doing. That's not self-care. So you want to be doing things that make you feel good, sort of raise your heart rate a little bit in what you're doing. And you don't have to look at it in terms of, oh, I got to go and join a football team or something like that, or team sport. You can do it recreation. So like another thing that me and my partner are doing is roller skating and rollerblading. There's other things that you can do that are on your own terms. So say for example, roller skating. We have an outdoor rink here, which is great. And so you can go down there, put on your roller skates, roll around, put headphones on so you don't have to talk to anyone, listen to the music that you like. You're getting out there in some sunshine. All of that is huge benefit of just going to roll around for half an hour, say, for example. looking at research and going to the research perspective, and this is especially around weight-bearing exercise. So this is, getting that proprioceptive input into the bodies as well, which is hugely important to many autistic neurodivergent people because it helps calm and regulate the body through these exercises. Research shows that just 30 minutes of weight-bearing exercise once a week has huge benefits. So you don't have to go out there and do this 5 days a week. 30 minutes once a week will make a huge difference. And I'm more than happy, actually, I will send that link to you, Elle, so you can send it out to people to have a look at this research because it's only reasonably new. And so with weight-bearing exercise, it doesn't mean you have to go out and do bench presses and things like that. If you want to, you can. But it could be even, especially even with young people, having some weight-bearing exercise is beneficial. So you get them go, oh, can you just carry these books across the room for me? Can you hold the door open for me? All these things are putting on weight and bearing onto the joints and the muscles. So this is help improving how they're feeling. A weighted ball, so just picking it up off the ground. Things like that. So you can create activities and games. And especially with the Australian Athletics site, they've got a lot of great activities that are really, really fun on their website for young people. So you could even have a look on there and see, hey, what could I incorporate with my kids? Or what could I do myself? You could go out, if think about what you did in the past when you were younger, is a really good way too. You might have enjoyed riding your push bike. Why not bring that back into your life if you enjoyed doing that? Skateboarding, there's really good research. There was a program done about, this is a few years ago, showing the huge benefits of skateboarding, how it improved balance and also helped with calming in ADHD kids. It was huge. That was huge how it changed how they were feeling about themselves just from learning skateboarding. So there's lots of different things. We don't have to think of the typical team sports.
That's so interesting. And I think that's part of what you were talking about before about things being fun, right? We're only going to
Yeah.
do them if we're enjoying doing them. And we're
Yeah.
certainly going to keep it up if we enjoy that activity. And I can't say I ever thought about skateboarding as an exercise before, but
Yeah,
I
because
could
it's
see I could really see how that would be excellent for coordination, balance. I mean, you're using your core for your strength. So
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really interesting. So physical health is really important and making sure we're exercising in whatever way works for us. But what about our mental health? Now, I know you like to do some interesting things that are not typical for maybe some that help you to sort of look after your mental health. What are some of those things you like doing?
Um, so things from my mental health I like doing. I'm just thinking here. I'm guessing you're talking about the motorcycle riding for
I
me.
am talking about
I thought you
motorcycle
were.
riding.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad we got to talk about it because I love riding my bike, and he's called Ron, so he has a name. Everybody knows him, Ron Burgundy. Um, and so for me, and I haven't done this enough lately, and I'm very honest about this. I used to ride a lot more than I do now, but when I go out on my motorcycle, it helps with my anxiety and depression, all the things that have been worrying me. So when I get on the bike, it's just a huge game changer for my mental health. It helps me relax. I don't actually have time to worry about other things because I need to make sure I don't fall off my motorbike for a start. And you're also constantly, looking at the surroundings around you, but just getting out on the back roads and in nature. And for me, the movement, I love speed, and I don't speed on my motorbike. Just making making an observation. Um, but just going in the wind, that movement, I feel more connected when I'm on my bike than I do when my feet are on the ground. When I'm on the feet are on the ground, I'm actually really quite clumsy. And so when I get on the bike, I actually feel quite graceful. So it really grounds me when I'm riding along. And by the time I've gone off and rode around for a while and come back home, I feel completely different. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much calmer. And just big smile on my face. As my partner says, every time you come back from a ride, you've got this huge smile on your face. You're so much happier. I can be quite irritable at times when I'm overwhelmed and things like that. So that it calms everything down for me. So that's a huge benefit. So again, with mental health, it's about doing activities that make you feel good about yourself, that brings joy to you. So again, it could be that case of just get on a push bike and go and ride around the block. Make sure the magpies aren't nearby when you do that, because then it'll cause more stress. But but you
So
get
true.
where I'm coming from. It's doing things that help you feel good about yourself, that make you feel, yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm part of something.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also giving yourself the opportunity to do it. Sometimes we think that these things are a bit of a luxury, right? But they
Yeah,
really aren't. They
they're
really
not.
are very much looking after your mental health. And you
Absolutely.
need to recognize that you do need to actively look after your mental health. Otherwise, it will get the better of you. So that's very good advice.
Yeah.
Um, so, Barb, if someone's listening today, whether they're an autistic adult or whether they're a parent or carer, and you've given us so many wonderful ideas, but what would be the one thing that you would say to people who are looking to make a change? What's the one piece of advice you could give to them about what they could do to help look after either their physical health or their mental health that could have a really big impact?
Take very small steps. Even one tiny thing that you do is a step in the right direction of helping yourself, whether it's mental health or physical health. When you start taking, just those little changes, they all start to add up, and you want to be thinking about doing this for you. So you've got to put yourself first for once. Stop worrying about everybody else. Do this for you. This is for your well-being. Take that one little change. So it might be, okay, I'm going to, like I said, we can go back to, I'm going to go roller skating for half an hour once a week. That's a huge change that you're making in 30 minutes. And that's for you. It can improve your mental well-being. It can potentially improve your physical well-being. It can improve balance. It can do a lot of different things. A lot of people, think we've got to do all of these big things to make a big goal. It's not. It's about the little tiny steps that we take. We're working towards something, that is beneficial to us.
Yeah, and I think that makes it really achievable, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You're only looking at things in small little increments. It does feel like it's more achievable, and we all feel a lot better once we've accomplished this little goal that we've set, and then the goals can get bigger and bigger as we
exactly.
grow. Oh, Barb, I have so many more questions for you, but I'm conscious that I've already gone over time, but we'll just have to do this again
We
soon.
will.
All right. Thank you so much for all your incredibly valuable advice and sharing all your experience. Barb, as I said, has so many different hats. You can follow her work across her websites and her social media channels. We'll include all of that in the email and recording when we send it out following this. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We will send the recording out in the next couple of days once we've pulled it all together. If you are interested in finding out more information and the work that we do at Autism Awareness, please visit our website, autismawareness.com.au, and subscribe to our YouTube as well. There is a series, as I said earlier, of Ought to Know webinars. You can find them all published on our YouTube channel. Thank you again to Chill for all your support in helping make this happen. And we look forward to seeing you all next month. All right. Take care, Barb. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.